You're listening to What's Next? Conversations with Boomers, and I'm your host, Barb Demaray. Hey, Mela.
Hi.
Remember last episode? Well, of course you remember. Tim and I had a fabulous conversation around attachment styles, and we talked specifically about avoidant attachment. And we had another conversation further expanding on what it means, what avoidant attachment means, how to spot it, what are the sort of tendencies of people that are avoidant, where that stems from. And one of the things that we talked about is when you are abruptly discarded from an avoidant person and what that feels like. So have you ever been with an avoidant person, to your knowledge?
For sure. Yeah.
For sure.
I guess because I have an anxious attachment, and avoidants are very much like attracted to an anxiously attached person because it feeds their need to feel like they're wanted or needed or desired. Because an anxious person will be like, oh, but wait, are you okay? Like, are we okay? The anxiously attached will chase, and avoidants love that because it makes them feel wanted. It makes them feel desired.
Gives them attention.
And I think Tim mentioned that in your conversation as well.
But I think it was another great conversation. Tim's got so much knowledge. And
yes. I mean, I was really engaged. There was a moment when he said really fast dating is a red flag. I mean, you'll hear in the conversation, but how, when you're dating somebody and it feels like it's moving really, really fast, it's not necessarily a good sign.
Not a good sign.
Yeah. And then perhaps, we need to take our time with love. But it was a really good conversation. I was very engaged, and I can't wait for the rest of our listeners to hear it in its entirety because it's something you don't want to miss.
Right. Me too. So have a listen, everybody. Another great conversation with Tim Wade. Hey, Tim.
Hey, Barb.
The listeners don't know that we've had some technical complications.
Difficulties, yes.
Difficulties. But hey, we got through them because we have a tech expert here, which I'm so grateful for. So, yeah, anyway, this is life. It happens. Sometimes you have to go with the flow. So, last episode, we talked about avoidant attachment style, and we gave a definition, and we talked a tiny bit about how do you heal from these abrupt breakups. How about we just sort of expand a little bit more what this means? What sort of are the characteristics of an avoidant person, what you might experience, because there's fearful avoidant and there's also dismissive avoidant, and what you might experience if you're with that person. And I will say that our last episode is getting a lot of interest. So.
Well, there must be a lot of avoidance out there. And
I think there is.
They're probably not listening to the show because they just are avoiding it. But yes, I think that this is a hot topic these days because it used to be just like, something happened and then they went away and there was nothing to call it or to understand it. You just figure, well, I ran into a jerk or something. Now we know. So I think for those of you who don't remember, there is secure attachment, the one that we would all like to have. There is nervous or anxious attachment. And then there is the avoidant that we're talking about. And then the ever popular disorganized attachment.
Disorganized?
Yes. And then there's some nuances in there, as you said. There's avoidant that's fear-based. Or reacts in fear. There's avoidant that is dismissive. There are probably other ones. But we're going to talk today about avoidance a little more depth.
Right. Another thing that we did was that we identified our own attachment styles.
Right.
We've all got our foibles and our weaknesses and parts of ourselves that can get better. But the big thing is being able to recognize it. Yeah, I've certainly got mine. My goodness, I've got phobias and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And it's all about recognizing your tendencies or your habits or your go-to reactions and being able to adjust those so that you have a better life and better friendships and better relationships and all of that. Let's say you're avoidant. You may always tend to want to withdraw if you get scared of intimacy, scared of vulnerability, all of those things. I know that you can work on that. Same thing with the anxious attachment. When your tendency is to pursue, you can take 10 deep breaths. Don't send the 5th text in a row without any response. All the things you're tempted to do, you just slow it down. Slow is really good for the anxious attached. They say in car racing that slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
oh, yeah.
And
Being able to identify some of our weaknesses, which everybody on the planet has, and it's only by identifying them that you can work through them. Say, no, I don't really want to be this way. I want better relationships. I just want to be a better version of myself in the relationships that I'm in. But it has to start with being able to recognize.
right. There's a lot of focus sometimes on figuring out what other people's problems are.
We're good at that.
Yeah, without ever figuring out your own. And of course, the pursuer distancer dance is very common. So the pursuer would be the anxiously attached, and then the distancer would obviously be the avoidant. And those two types get together a lot because that's an unspoken agreement they have when they meet. And if they continue into a relationship, okay, you'll chase me and I'll run away. And it's almost seems like a game at first until it's not.
Right.
So,
And there's this dance that goes on.
yeah. So that's why there's an interlocking codependent puzzle that happens between an avoidant and an anxiously attached. I always thought that if two avoidants met each other, they would never get together because no one would call anyone. And turns out I have a client and he feels strongly that he and his wife are both avoidants. And he's British, which is also, there's a cultural component to this. So he said, the Brits, I think he's Scottish. And he said, well, we avoid conflict and we just, button it up with a stiff upper lip, all of that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And so he said, we never argue. We've never argued. So they both avoid conflict like the plague, which on the surface you might think, oh, well, that's great. Good. You never argue. However, it's not like they never get annoyed and angry and hurt. They just don't deal with it. So over time, resentment, anger brewing underneath the surface like some awful swamp. And it comes out in mutant kind of behaviors, passive aggressive things, and all sorts of ways in which it gets expressed one way or the other.
Yeah, I went out with somebody for a while that said that, and he had been married for a long, long time, and he said that they never talked. They never talked about their marriage, their relationship, never. And yeah, it's not, like we've said before, it's not an easy conversation. I identified myself as secure/anxious, but I certainly, when I was much younger, I would have been more anxious. I would have been a pursuer and, what's wrong? Or what can I do this for you? Or how about we do this? Or I learned to not do that. It doesn't get me anywhere. And also, when you start to respect yourself more, I just have this sort of rule. I don't chase anybody. If you want to distance yourself, you knock yourself out, but I'm not chasing you. So, Tim, tell me,
Yes.
you identify yourself as disorganized, which, as I've just said, I think it's really bold and mature of you to say that out loud. How do you work on that? How do you sort of heal from that, if that's the right word?
Yeah, I think healing is a good word, else because it is trauma-based most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very early in childhood. So I did a few things, and mostly the very first thing was just the awareness. That's always the first step. Just knowing anything about it, and that, oh, well, I wonder what my attachment style is. And I started to notice that there were times that I would feel very needy and nervous and anxious and want more attention than I was getting, which, by the way, in a romantic relationship is incredibly unattractive, turns out, especially in a man.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but right. Yeah, it's not attractive.
Yeah. So there's that. And then I also noticed the tendency, which I used to think was just being an introvert, to feel smothered, feel, like, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to, help me, or I don't know how to explain it exactly. Very uncomfortable. Now I know that it was more a discomfort with intimacy, emotional intimacy.
Mm.
And so when things got a little too close, a little too vulnerable, I would pull away and need some time alone, that kind of thing. And so faced with that, I just started to recognize, you know what? I'm nervous about this, what's happening, that we're getting too close or whatever. And I had self-talk that said, but I'm going to stick around. I'm going to lean in, even though it's difficult and it seems daunting. And I found that so many problems, as you approach them, get smaller, not bigger.
True.
And so by leaning in and saying, okay, I can do this. I can hang in there, at least for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I could do things that I believed were hard. I can do hard things,
Mm-hmm.
and it got easier more and more. And so that's really how I dealt with it. And the other thing I did is I did a year in therapy using, do you know what IFS is? Internal Family Systems.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did a year-long dive into that with a therapist, and it resonated a lot. We can do another episode on IFS because it's got a lot to it. But basically, I learned how to deal with those parts of me that are afraid, because it all boils down to fear. Whether you're anxious or avoidant, or, me, I was going to stay disheveled,
Yeah.
disorganized.
Disorganized. Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned to deal with those parts that were afraid instead of rejecting them. So that was a big deal too, to be kind to myself when I was feeling anxious about something. Made a big difference.
Did you ever say to yourself, oh, here I go again. I'm playing out my disorganized self. Let me pull back. Let me reframe what I'm acting or doing or saying.
Only like 100,000 times. Yes, of course, you make mistakes and you get back. It's so easy to go back into automatic pilot. Any habit you developed over time, especially like your whole life,
Yeah.
and I'm 67, that's a lot of years of getting really, really good at being disorganized in my attachment style. So yeah, there were times it's like, oh, I'm doing that. I'm doing my thing. I'm doing the
my
thing
thing.
show.
But look at how far you've come, Tim.
How far have I come?
I know you have, because you're knowledgeable. You've recognized it, and yeah, we can only fix what we name, right?
Right.
I grew up in a alcoholic environment till I was 12, and when you probably know this, but when you grow up in a very unstable, chaotic environment, you learn a way to survive. And I have two sisters, and we all survived in our own way. And my way was to please everybody. Just don't let anybody be mad at me, because there's enough anger and rage in the house already. So I just said yes to everything. And I am still at 72 working, trying to remind myself that I don't have to please everybody. It's okay to say no. It's okay to set a boundary, but I have to work at it continually. So I agree with you. I mean, these things, it's automatic.
Yes. And we're all old enough to remember Ricky Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he had a hit. The chorus said, "I learned my lesson well. You can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself."
Yeah.
You remember that song?
Easier said than done. Yeah. Yeah. And of
Easier
course,
said
remember
than done,
Ricky
right?
Nelson.
Would you mind if we just kind of quickly went over how to know whether you're dating or with a avoidant?
Let's do that.
Okay. Because we did that, somewhat on the last episode, but we can even pinpoint it more. So I looked up some of my reading material behind me to kind of remind myself, what are the most obvious signs? And the avoidant is usually very independent, kind of the self-reliant, I don't depend on anyone, and they wear it sort of like a badge of courage, the
Mhm.
lone wolf.
I don't need anyone.
I don't need
I don't need anyone.
Yeah, yeah. Which in and of itself, self-reliance can be a good thing, but when it becomes excess, then it's a problem. As they say, lone wolves die alone. So emotional closeness distresses them. So intimacy feels suffocating, like too much, can't handle it, So they keep a distance, a certain amount of emotional distance, kind of an arm's length away. Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it really starts to heat up, including not just from the other person, but from them, if they start to feel too attracted, too like, oh, this is really good, I really like this person, I like them, they will like shut it off, pull away, like too much. And they suddenly get what you hear is, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I've been really busy. That's a classic, unless they really are busy, but if you hear that.
My phone was turned off. I was.
Oh, yes, I hear the phone.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes they'll even describe themselves as not being a relationship person, which to me sounds ridiculous, because unless you're truly a monk or a hermit, everyone needs relationships of some sort.
Absolutely. This is our lifeline. They're crucial.
Yeah. But what they do is they try to bury themselves in their work,
Hobbies.
Yeah, whatever they think is, whatever they can just do. I'll get to build models in the basement or whatever. Also, they're not really good at recognizing their feelings. You just said, if you name it, you can claim it, so to speak, and deal with it. Someone who's really not good at describing their feelings could be, because they don't like feelings very much.
They're scary.
Yeah. A lot of men are accused of being avoidant. I don't know what the studies say about how many women are avoidant, but I imagine there are a lot of those too. But when you ask a man often, what are you feeling? He'll say, I'm feeling that she's acting like an idiot. And it's like, okay, well, that's a story, not a feeling. That's a thought.
Yeah.
What are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling like this isn't fair. Okay, another thought.
Another thought, not a feeling.
Feeling. And I've gone long stretches of just, okay, good. What are you feeling? So I give my clients a list of feelings. It's 2 pages long, and they
Gosh.
love it.
And do they tend to pick something eventually?
Oh, absolutely. If they have the paper, they're like, wait, I got to get my paper out. And then they look
Oh,
down the list and they're like, they'll find, yeah, I'm feeling unsettled.
mm, mm.
Because these are all more descriptive words than just sad, mad, glad, you know, disgusted. So that's another thing. And then they can at some point become very critical
Of others?
of
Oh, of okay, their partner.
yeah, it's a way of deactivating their own feelings because, at the bottom of it, if they get past their fear, they do want to connect. They want to be loved. They want to be in a relationship of some sort, but they're so paralyzed by that that they have to start, you know, undermining it.
Tim, when we were talking yesterday, I did share with you somebody that I was with who I identified as being avoidant, but he also had a tendency towards verbal abuse. And we were saying that's not really part of being avoidant, but we were also saying that anger stems from fear. It's a secondary emotion from fear. So in a way, it is part of it, right? Because I don't tend to be verbally abusive with people. I don't know where that stems from, but I do know that, angry outbursts come from fear.
Mm.
And so, and I did some more reading today too. And one of the questions I asked was, do avoidant people tend to be abusive? And that can be one of the qualities of avoidant partners.
Yeah, it's not, in the classic top 5 when you're looking for, because they won't, because here's the thing, you meet them and they're not going to start out abusive.
No, no.
Just like a narcissist, they're going to start out being charming and wonderful. And in fact, avoidance can often look very self-assured and happy and outgoing and all sorts of things.
Confident, yeah.
Confident, that's how they show up at first. But it's only when things get, scary later, and like a cornered animal, they may go to anger, abuse, trying to tear you down in order to not be attracted to you, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. Is that a tactic where they subconsciously are wanting to create distance?
Yeah, that's what's called a deactivating strategy. They're deactivating anything they feel that would make them be dependent at all, or, anything like that. They're like, no, I got to shut this down.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they do it that way. I read that they might even compare you to your face about some ex-partner they had that was awesome and wonderful.
Charming.
Yeah, charming, huh? Wow.
Yeah.
So all of these, because, stonewalling is an avoidant tactic, and stonewalling being just shutting down and just like almost a ghosting.
Oh yeah.
It's just, that's it. I'm not responding. I could be sitting in the same room and I'm not responding. Not everybody who tends to stonewall sometimes has avoidant attachment, but a lot of avoidant attached people do stonewall. So
yeah,
every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square. That
is this. Yeah. Let's just explain to people what stonewalling is. Some people might not know what that is.
Yeah, it's a way of shutting off emotionally and, conversation. It's almost just like going in your room and locking the door. It can show up though, like I said, you could be sitting in the same room and someone could be just ignoring you.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're engrossed in their phone or their book or their whatever. But someone who is stonewalling, they're well aware that you're trying to connect. And they have, for whatever reason, they feel hurt or angry. They're going to say, no, I'm withdrawing everything from you. They can become cold. and dismissive. They may be dismissive of your needs, your feelings, all of that. None of that matters.
Yeah, I've experienced it. It's really difficult. So, Tim, as a relationship coach, if you had a person, a client coming to you and described an interaction with their partner where they experience stonewalling, how do you coach them to deal with that?
Well, it's interesting because I've had a couple clients, one recently, who said he will be talking or trying to talk to his wife, and she will just get up and walk away without a word, which seems like the oddest behavior, but I'm not avoidant to that extreme. And although you might think, oh, well, I should go soothe them or make them feel safe, it's like it rarely works. In fact, they will double down on their whatever avoidant activity they're doing because they are emotionally overwhelmed with confrontation, conflict. In order to really talk to someone in any meaningful way, you have to be connected. And when they detach, they don't want to be connected. So it's best to give them their space until they can self-regulate and hopefully in some way and then re-engage. But, knocking on the door of their little cocoon, you in there? You in there? Makes it worse.
Right. Yeah. It's just, the challenge of trying to get through to somebody where there's an important conversation that needs to be had and the person is continually stonewalling. It's not easy.
It also might sound like someone giving one-word answers.
Right.
Sometimes it's a silent treatment. Sometimes it's just, hey, how was your day? Fine.
Right.
Oh,
which
what'd
is
you
just
do?
one step up from ghosting.
Yeah. What'd you do? Nothing. Where'd you go? I don't know. Just around. That's it. It's like, oh,
Right.
it is like talking to a stone wall, Or sometimes I used to describe it. It's like playing handball with a Jello wall. Just the serve just never comes back. You hit the ball, thunk.
Yeah.
Doesn't come back. My dad was like that to a certain extent. He did not know how to deal with emotions. So I realize now that he was avoidant of that. So sometimes I would serve the ball, try to connect, bid for connection. Just thunk. Wouldn't come back.
Yeah. My dad was the same.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get back to what you were saying a few minutes ago, because I was going to ask you, how much of this do you think is gender? That, men tend to be more avoidant. I mean, men, they're not as relational, I will say, from my experience, as women are. And they do tend to absolutely hate these let's talk about us conversations. But
Yeah.
in a committed relationship, it's essential. So do you think it's mostly men?
Well, as far as I know, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Not, if not mostly, they have a much greater tendency for various reasons. Now, since attachment style is developed early in life, men, little boys, were taught, especially in the last 75 years and more and later, you don't show your emotions. That's weak. It's not okay to be sad, to cry. Come on, buck up, little cowboy. That would be the nice way of saying it. What I heard growing up was, I don't know what kind of mood you're in. You better snap out of it right now.
Oh.
I learned to snap out of it. I did. I mean, part of dealing with that kind of stuff is to learn how to mask,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So men also, so they're not encouraged to explore their emotions or learn what they are starting at a young age. And that keeps going into adulthood. So then intimacy feels foreign and scary and weird. In fact, I've run into a lot of men, and this is not scientific, but for whom the word intimacy only means sex.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my job to help them understand there are so many forms of intimacy than just the physical.
Oh, absolutely.
But a lot of men don't know that. They don't know. And they don't know that women like the being romanced and the steps along the way that can get eventually to physical intimacy with affection and all sorts of things.
When I'm with a man that can be vulnerable, honestly, you've won my heart. And you don't meet many of them. Yes, I agree with you that it's probably mostly men and for exactly the reasons that you're pointing out. But I will say that I follow a lot of people around how to be in relationship and difficulties and how to get through them. And many of them are men, Matthew Hussey. He's one of the best known relationship coaches around right now. Lewis Howes. There's a bunch of them. A lot of men who dive into this as deeply as we're doing right now.
Once you start to understand it and get it and heal yourself, man, you can be like on fire about, I got to help other people. I got to help other men, especially. And that's how I got into it, really.
I was just going to say, yeah. Because now you're an expert because you've had so much experience.
I'm an expert because I made all the right mistakes.
Right. Yeah. I sort of say that about myself. Well, this person that I follow, also a man, this Ken Reed, this Australian therapist whose specialty is about attachment styles, and he focuses mostly on avoidant. And he gets into it very deeply and got into it because he was abruptly discarded. And of course, it devastated him. And so he wanted to understand. So, yeah, so we can't say that all men, well, certainly you're not, are
all anybody.
You can't say all anybody, right? You can't say all anybody.
Yeah. And there's a tendency for women to gravitate towards nervous, anxious attachment.
When I met my husband, it was very obvious to me in the beginning that he was very uncomfortable in social situations. He just wasn't natural at all, but that's okay. I'll fix him. But of course, we were together 32 years and nothing changed.
Still working on that, huh?
Yeah, well, he died, so I can't work on it anymore. But
well, yeah.
I just remember this. It's okay, I'll be there. So I learned if they're presenting as a certain kind of person with certain weaknesses that don't align with you, that's who they are. They're not going to change. Just,
Yeah, that's an interesting topic. Is like, can people change? Yes. Can you change them? No.
No.
And, Dr. John Gottman gets into this interesting conversation around influence. And so if you have the circle of things you cannot control, which is the big one, and then a circle much smaller inside of things you can control, he draws another circle, which is things you can influence.
Influence.
Yes. And it's a really, it's a gray area, and it could be kind of have a lot of landmines in it, especially for anyone who tends to be controlling and codependent. And the best thing I learned from it was a good marriage, a good relationship, both partners allow the other partner to influence them. And it's really important. They allow it to happen. Not one partner forces the other one to do something. Instead, it is an open-hearted way of approaching the relationship, saying, I know I'm not 100% complete all the time or perfect or anything. And so you approach it. I appreciate their opinion. I appreciate the experience they have. I appreciate what they have to offer. I may not always agree, but I am willing to be influenced by who they are and what they know and all that stuff. And I find myself more and more, not just in, my primary relationship with a business partner who just today, I said, I think we should do this, this, and this. And he said, I think it'd be better like this. And I went, oh, okay. And that wasn't me backing down or trying to make nice. He had a better point. He had a point. And I saw it immediately. And I have to say, without any pride, that there were times in the future that I would fight to be right. And I know that a vast majority of the time I wasn't right, but I would fight to win that. So I think in couples that can listen and say, yeah, and even this, I love this. That's a good point. I'd like to think about it. I'd really like to consider that.
What fabulous awareness, Tim, honestly. I used to be a right fighter and realized that I wasn't right all the time, and which none of us are. And yeah. And everybody likes to hear, I love what you just said, or yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go with your idea.
Yeah, or I never thought of it that way. I'm so glad you spoke up because I didn't see it. That creates so much healing and connection in a relationship. I can't tell you how fulfilling it is. And to feel this immediate connection when you can say, oh, that's great. I didn't think of that.
Well, relationships it's teamwork, and teams work best when everybody has a chance to express their ideas. And I love getting somebody else's opinion because I certainly don't have all the answers with most things.
I want to talk a minute about this idea of, if I see the red flags, I'm out of there.
Right.
What if you see some red flags or you see them for a second or whatever? Should you just always be, run away? Or are there people, not that you're going to make them a project that you have no ability? And somebody told me, you have no ability to change them and you don't have the right. That's really usurping their sovereignty when you try to impose your will on them the way you see the world should be. And the two phrases I picked up were wounded but willing.
WBW.
WBW versus chronically unavailable, chronically stuck, whatever you want to say it, without being, too pejorative about them. And so if someone is trying, it's what you just said earlier. If they can know their pattern, I tend to be avoidant, and they admit it. And they don't say it like, so just deal with it because that's the way I am. But they're willing to talk about it, even if it's not easy, even if it's awkward. And if they are trying even small, incremental efforts to push through, even if they say, I'm feeling overwhelmed and scared, that's actually a step forward.
Definitely. Yes. To name it. Yes.
Or afterwards, if they're the ones that come back to initiate the repair, not you chasing them again. We're talking about avoidance at this point.
Yeah.
Or maybe you notice that over time they're becoming a little more present in the moment, that they're actually working on that. And there's probably 100 other things you could see. And this is why it could be a slippery slope, because it could be wishful thinking. So you really got to be on your game to say, they get wounding, we all do. But are they actually working on it?
Yeah. If there's somebody that's constantly avoiding and pulling back from important conversations, and obviously you don't have the relationship conversations in the second date to the third date, but if things look like they're progressing in some way, where are we going with this? Where do you want to go with it? And just as you were talking, I was thinking, if somebody starts to recognize they tend to be avoidant and I'm avoidant, I want to invite you to call me on it when you recognize that I'm pulling back and I'm avoiding difficult, intimate conversations. Feel free to call me on it. So, I mean, I've never experienced that, but wouldn't that be wonderful?
Oh, that's quite mature.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're talking about attachment styles or just about anything, you can say to this other person, you know what? Sometimes I get kind of worked up and start to get overheated for something I'm, passionate about or that I feel strongly, and it may be too much. And if you can tell me, hey, it's okay. Just we take a deep breath a little bit. The energy's
Take a
getting
deep breath.
high. And guess who does that? My partner does that for me.
Oh,
And the agreement was, you can tell me that kindly, and I won't fight you. Because that's my side of it, is that I can't then ask her to do that. And then if she does, try to be right,
right.
deny. Well, I'm not talking too loud.
And
It's good.
I think that would make another good episode, Tim. Have you and Barb come on and share how to fight.
Yeah. There are
Yeah.
good ways to fight.
Definitely. Yeah.
There are bad ways to fight.
When you're abruptly discarded by an avoidant, everything's going along just great. There's no apparent clash, conflict. Everything's just wonderful. And all of a sudden, they just end it just like that. And there's no pre-conversation. There's no follow-up. There's no nothing. So I asked Chat,
Oh,
our friend,
Johnny GPT.
GPT, how do you heal after being abruptly discarded? This is what it said in the beginning. Honestly, it's brutal. Being abruptly cut off by someone with avoidant tendencies can feel like the emotional equivalent of getting shoved off a moving train. No warning, no closure, just silence and a nervous system in free fall. And that's exactly what I've experienced. I just feel like my nervous system's on overdrive. Healing isn't just getting over a guy. It's unwinding the shock, the abandonment response, the self-doubt, and the adrenaline that comes from being dropped mid-connection. So if anybody's experienced this, you're probably feeling all those things. It's the same for everybody. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's good work, GPT. Because really, to be able to name that without any feelings of I'm blowing it out of proportion, or I should be stronger and be able to take this. It's like, bull. Like, who said
Yeah.
that? This is like I said, brutal.
Brutal. It really is. It's brutal. Yeah.
And when we all make meaning out of things, right? Things happen, and then we try to describe to ourselves, why did this happen? And it's so easy with this situation to say, how did I not see it coming? How did I not know earlier?
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, those who are so avoidantly attached that they become almost, borderline narcissist, there's no way. They're too good at it.
Yeah.
They can be charming and wonderful and all of that. So any sort of self-damaging meaning story that you make up, you want to immediately discount and go, no, I don't think that's true. In other words, I'm not lovable. I should have known better. Any of those things is just, no, thanks for sharing, but that's not the case. And that you're not crazy for feeling the way you feel.
You're human.
You're a human. And so I think finding an appropriate way to express the grief, really, because there's grief and anger. You may have gone into a relationship and thinking, wow, this is going so well, and this could actually have legs. This could work. And then it's ripped out from under you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like some sort of horrible, horrible practical joke or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And anybody going through this, look up the vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve becomes dysregulated, and there's many ways that you can help to regulate it. Somatic yoga, different breathing, humming, warm baths, and sometimes cold plunge. There's a number of things you can do, but you do not heal overnight from these things.
Right. I know that. I think you said you're taking a little break from dating right now.
I have deactivated myself from everything. I can't take this anymore.
Yeah. And that's the fear is that it will, I can't trust anyone. This is all screwed up and it's never going to be any different.
Well, and I don't like feeling that way, but I've had 6 relationships in the last 3 years, and all of them had some major issues that I couldn't tolerate.
Well, here's the thing. Number one, you couldn't tolerate them. If you could, you'd be just as messed up as they are.
Exactly.
So that's good news, actually, that you recognized and couldn't tolerate. You might be thinking your picker is broken. Your chooser.
My picker.
You're picking. Not banjo, and there are ways, if you decide that you're going to be social in that way again, there are some things to look out for, like be on the lookout for, not shut down, totally cautious and afraid, but the one I read in my studies that I thought was really important, and that is hyper fast intensity with no consistency.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Things going really fast.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced that. Yeah.
It's only been a few weeks and they're like talking about where you're going to live on the beach and
Yeah. Practically.
the whole future, but then of course it's all just talk. So a green flag might be, again, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah.
Things
Slow is smooth, smooth and fast.
Slowly, not where the person is just not available at all, but slowly, with some space, with some breathing room, with not this urgent, almost manic need. If you sense that, I want to see you again. Call me as soon as you get home. We think that's like romantic from the movies, and it could be that someone is just going through their nervous attachment thing, or the other way around would be you say, well, let's talk tomorrow. And they say, yeah, I'm really busy tomorrow, but yeah, okay. And then you don't hear.
Mm-hmm.
So boring consistency might be a green flag.
Yeah.
It's a little boring, but lovely,
Yeah. This has been so interesting. And, Tim, I'm thinking that another great episode would be one on boundaries, because that is something that a lot of us, me included, have difficulty with.
Yeah. There's a phrase, I don't know if we talked about it last time, called earned attachment, that you don't just assume someone is securely attached necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have to show you that
you have to be put to the test sometimes.
Yeah. That you're looking for things we just talked about, quicker repairs, more honesty. I'm scared and I'm hanging in, more open communication, all that stuff. Those are like, oh, now you're earning me being connected to you and, opening up. Brene Brown says, not everyone belongs in your inner circle of vulnerability.
Absolutely not. Maya Angelou just came into my head, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them.
Amen to that.
Amen to that, yeah. Tim, just enormous thanks to you for coming on again. And they love this. Everybody is loving the relationship one. So we can do more.
Oh, and I love it too.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, Tim, just another reminder of how people can reach you.
TimWadeCoaching.com.
Okay.
That's the easiest way. You can connect with me through sending me a message there. You can email me from there. That's the best way.
Okay, great.
Or take me out to dinner. I don't know. Either way.
Take them out for dinner. Why not?